Hi, my name is Anandeshwari Singh. I'm a clinical psychologist. Welcome to our session on psychological testing. Today, we're going to talk about what exactly are psychological tests and what are the technicalities that go behind designing a psychological test, right? So, before we get into the details of that, let us first understand that psychological testing, what is known as psychological testing. Today, testing is used in almost all clinics across cities, across zones. And important question is that tests that are so popular today, do they have any historical significance, right? So we are going to focus on that for a bit to give you some context about testing, and then we are going to move on to what are the so as to say nitty-gritties or the integrities of psychological testing. So let's start. First, as I said, let's start with the introduction and historical background of psychological tests. Now, psychology owes its origin, or one can trace the roots of psychology back to two major disciplines. The first is physiology, right? And the second is philosophy. Now, why have I told you this? This is to understand that psychology then would be concerned with the issues of the mind and the body, right? So, the dominating question in psychology is what is the relationship between this thing called the mind, right? And how is this mind, this meta sort of a unit, how is this related to the physical entity that we have called the body, right? So, for example, when we talk about depression, right, there are certain biological components of depression. Okay, if you look at the understanding of depression, or in all your major books on psychology, on clinical psychology, psychiatry, will tell you biological factors of depression, right? So that is how what is experienced as a feeling, right? What is experienced as sadness, what is experienced as low mood, what is experienced as lack of energy. How is that related to the body, right? How is that related to the brain? And therefore, you have the neurotransmitter explanation of depression, right? I'm just giving you a brief example. So, what is the link here? The link is how do we connect what is felt, right? What is experienced with the body, right? So, philosophy was concerned with the question, what is knowledge, right? What is knowledge, and who is this person who is interpreting knowledge? Okay, so philosophy was concerned with the meta questions, while physiology was concerned or was focused on the concrete, right? So, physiology is a very exact science. Now, these words are important. Understanding this is important, okay? Because then when we start talking about the parameters of testing and how do we make testing objective, we will keep going back to this part of psychological testing, right? So, physiology is a very exact kind of a science, right? So, psychology, the parents of psychology, one was related to the meta questions, right? One was related to the more philosophical question, and one was related to a very exact kind of a science, and when they both combined, we formed their combination gave birth to psychology, right? So psychology in its root wanted to be an exact science, right? The attempt was to bring about an exact theory of the mind, right? And what do we mean when we say exact? The attempt was at universalization. Now, what is universalization? Universalization is that, for example, if this pen is 30 centimeters long, it will be 30 centimeters across the globe, across all parameters. So, your metric system is universal. Okay. So, for example, if we say that there is your hands have a physiology, right? Now that physiology will be more or less consistent across human species. So that physiology is universal. So what did psychology want to do? Psychology wanted to create a universal theory of the mind. Okay, so the 19th century attempt at objectivity through scientific methods. Okay, so when we talk about methods, this is very important, because what are we trying to say? We can create, the assumption was that we can create a scientific theory of the mind if we use scientific methods. Okay, let me give you an example. How do we know that this is 30 centimeters, right? Because we will use a scale to measure it. Okay, so what is the method? The method that we are using is scientific, is objective, is concrete, right? We have a vetted system, right? We have a vetted metric system that is constant. So we are able to reach the conclusion that this is 30 centimeters because we are employing methods that are based on a constant verified system, right? And Mill was a major philosopher who was trying to go after this question in the 19th century. Now we go on to what really happened with this, right? When we are moving on to deriving an exact theory of the mind, what was the major dent here? Okay, so the major dent was the recognition that there are individual differences, right? When there are individual differences among people, the attempt at universalization, there is a major dent on the attempt at universalization, right? And we are going to get into that shortly in the next section, right? So let's move on to what are psychological tests. Okay, so there are two definitions. There are two things that you must keep in mind when we are talking about psychological tests. First, the test is standardized. Okay, what is standardized? Okay, if you put it simply, just by the meaning of the word standardized, it means that there are certain standards that the test has to meet before it is put into use. Okay, and one of the major standards is that the test has to be objective. Okay, it is objective in the sense that there are no inherent biases, or it will be a stretch to say no inherent biases, but the idea is that it is free as much as possible from contaminating factors. This is very important, okay? Now, what are these contaminating factors, right? If I say that, say if I am a researcher who wants to say that this test is standardized. This test is standardized. It is going to prove my theory, and the items that I use in the test are designed in a way that it will prove my theory. What would that mean? That it is contaminated by my prejudice, it is contaminated by my vested interests. Okay, so a test to be standardized has to be objective as far as possible. Okay, and it is an instrument. So a test is not the end all and be all of all kinds of measurements. It is an instrument that is designed to quantify clinical judgment. Okay, and this is important, right? Because you can't base your decision of treatment, you can't base your decision of classification on tests alone. Clinical judgment becomes very important. So what do these tests do? They add a numerical value to your clinical judgment. So to summarize, what is a test? It is a standardized, objective instrument to measure an attribute or a behavior. Okay. Now we have to talk about what are these tests used for, right? So they can be used to measure a sample of behavior or mental processes. What does that mean? If I have to test, say, activity levels, right? Or say if I have to test learning levels. What is that? It is a sample, it is a behavior pattern that is being demonstrated, right? And mental processes, if I have to a test for depression, a test for anxiety, a test for memory, right? So what is memory? Memory is a mental process. So you're trying to test these attributes, or you're trying to quantify these attributes using tests, right? And what are these tests based on? Why were these tests born? It was to assess individual differences. Okay. So if you trace the history of these tests, they have roots in ancient China, but let's not go that far. We are going to start with the 19th century attempt by Galton. Okay, so what did Galton do? Okay, Galton tried to, again, as I said in the first slide, what is the attempt of psychology? The attempt of psychology is to reach the meta through the observable, right? Is to reach the mind through the body. So if you keep that in mind, it is very obvious what would the first tester, so as to say, would be doing, right? The first tester, or not the first actually, but one of the first recognized testers tried to measure individual differences in physical traits. Okay, when researchers realized that there are individual differences in abilities, in behavior, so what was the conclusion? The conclusion was that these differences must be tied to something in the body, because the body is also not the same, right? So because the body is not the same, maybe that is why the mind is not the same. So what did Galton do? Galton started measuring physical attributes. Okay, and what are these physical attributes? Skull size. Okay, skull size, your physical stature. So the idea was that the bigger the skull size, the more intelligent would that person be, right? So what was he trying to do? If you take yourself back to the first slide that I was explaining, what is he trying to do? He's trying to say, okay, now if the skull size is this much, okay, once you put a quantity to skull size, so for example, if the skull circumference is 30 centimeters and somebody else's skull circumference is 35 centimeters, then Galton felt that he could say that there is the person with a skull size of 35 centimeters is more intelligent than that of the 30 centimeters because of the numbers attached, because of the numerical value attached, because the difference was based on something that is observable and measurable. Okay, observable, measurable, and quantifiable, right? Of course, this was proved to be incorrect. And with time and with continuous testing and experimentation, Wundt became the first person to establish the first psychological laboratory in 1879. Okay, so Wundt established the first psychological laboratory in 1879 in Leipzig. Okay, now it is important to highlight this word lab. As I was saying, that the in the first slide, what was I trying to explain? That the idea was that you can develop a universal theory of the mind, you can develop a universal idea of the mind by employing scientific methods. Now, what is the logical conclusion? Where will scientific methods be applied? In a lab. So that's why the first lab was incepted, right? Now, these are very important philosophical. I'm trying to get you in the minds of those early researchers and trying to help you understand how were these tests really developed and why is so much of standardization necessary in these tests.